I'm Charlie Sykes. Football season is finally here and not a minute too soon. Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was, it was back to school last week. The NFL season finally opens. The Packers face their nemesis, the 49ers in San Francisco, later today. A restaurant group cuts its ties with Ryan Braun, but you saw that coming, right? The war drums get louder as President Obama asks Congress for the okay to bomb Syria. New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan comes to town and speaks to a sellout crowd at the Milwaukee Theater. Milwaukee's murder rate spikes again, the August death toll the highest since 2005. Veteran Democrat legislator Tim Cullen announces his retirement from the state Senate. Former Supreme Court Justice Donald Steinmetz passes away. Waukesha Representative Bill Kramer is elected Republican Assembly Majority Leader, and former state Democrat spokesman Graham Zielinski blows off a court appearance Thursday on his third drunk driving charge. But we start with the president's hard sell on war. In a surprise move last week, President Obama decided to ask for congressional authorization to attack Syria after the regime there allegedly used chemical weapons on its own people. A resolution authorizing force passed the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on a 10-7 vote, with Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson voting no. But the sales job is an uphill one, especially in the House. So far, there seems to be little support among Wisconsin's representatives, even among Democrats. Congressman Jim Sensenbrenner and Sean Duffy, both Republicans, have already said they will vote no. Democrat Mark Pocan and Republican Reed Ribble are leaning against. Even Obama loyalists are staying on the sidelines, at least for now. Joining me on our panel this morning, former State Representative Michelle Litchens, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, and RightWisconsin.com managing editor Brian Fraley. Michelle, let me ask you, the president is going to be speaking to the nation on Tuesday night. Is he going to be able to turn around the tide of public opinion on this?
I don't think he has a chance. I don't think that anytime you go out and talk to the public, you're actually able to sway public opinion as much as you might have been able to do so years ago. I think the president hasn't done a good job at all at swaying public opinion, which is why Congress is not likely to give him support in going into Syria. Okay,
if somebody would have said that to me a week ago, I'd have said, no. In the end, there's no way that they will not give him authorization. It might squeak through. But from the point of view of Democrats, we don't have one Democrat in Wisconsin as of this taping who has announced support for this bombing. How do you think they're going to play out in the end when they actually have to pull the lever?
I think the majority will vote no.
Democrats.
Democrats. What was really interesting is, is talk about this secret memo from the president of the chair of the Black Congressional Caucus, asking other black congressmen to stay away from this issue. Don't make any public statements about this issue. And then we have Congressman Rango, for example, said there's no way in hell, and that's his quote, there's no way in hell we should have any troops or any bombing in Syria. This is one of those volatile issues, and unfortunately the president is on the wrong side.
Okay, where's Tammy Baldwin going to come down? I mean, she comes from the anti-war left. She's a peacenik. On the other hand, she's been a loyal foot soldier for the Democrats, and there's going to be tremendous pressure on all of these representatives. Won't they, don't leave your president hanging out there. Don't destroy his credibility. In the end, will Democrats from Wisconsin vote to authorize this action?
No, I think the only Democrat that might vote to authorize this action, believe it or not, is Gwen Moore. And I will disagree with you on one point, Michelle. I think this administration has done a lot to influence public opinion. The other way. Between Secretary of State Kerry's just abysmal performance, petulant performance in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and President Obama's "I didn't draw that red line and my reputation's not at stake, the reputation of Congress is at stake." People are like, what is this all about? He has not done anything to explain the need for military action, but he has swayed public opinion against
Okay, now there's also the argument that conservative Republicans should support the president just because he's the president, because we only have one president. He's the commander-in-chief. He drew the red line in the sand. If we don't do anything, then the United States is neutered? Is that getting any traction?
No, and I think we need to support the president to do the right thing. Yeah. So I'm glad that we're actually having the conversation, that everyone is talking about this topic. We can't just send our young men and women into a country when we don't have an end game. And maybe we do need to do something, but we do need to talk about it, and all of America needs to be behind it.
And Americans are tired of war in the Middle East. They're tired of our troops being over there. They're tired of even talking about terrorism and this side and that side. The United States history, and this didn't start with Obama. It's not all that great as it turns out about whose side to take over. You know, there was somebody named Osama bin Laden. Yeah. We supported him. Then 10 years later, you know, he's the enemy. And we don't know who to support in Syria.
Okay, but when it comes down to it, I'm focusing on the politics right here. With the president, you know, and the vice president, they get representatives in the room. They get Congressman Michael Holt in the room. They get Gwen Moore in the room, and they say, "Listen, you got it. Whatever you think, you know what? We went out. We said this. You cannot leave us. We'll throw some bombs. We'll fire a shot across the bow. We'll try to break as few things as possible. But you cannot embarrass me by voting no."
I think it speaks volumes what the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Let's stay out of this. You know, I mean, we're not hawks. Most of these Democrats are not hawks. You know, you have to really lay a strong case out to explain why we should drop some new bombs in the Middle East.
You know, I thought Peggy Noonan had a great line where she basically said, look, you know, why are Americans saying no to this? Because it's the wrong place, it's the wrong time, it's the wrong plan, and it's the wrong man. And right now, a lot of this comes down to, do you trust, do you have confidence in the administration? And frankly, as you point out, Brian, every time he's really opened his mouth on this, he undermines this. I mean, that press conference where he goes, well, you know, yeah, I didn't draw that red line. That was there when I got there. That was cringeworthy stuff. Will Tammy Baldwin, I still have a hard time figuring out what Tammy Baldwin's going to do. If she announced that she was going to vote no, I think this thing is dead. If he can't even bring Tammy Baldwin.
And which is why I don't think you'll hear an announcement from her. And I don't think you'll hear an announcement from Gwen Moore before the votes are taken. I actually think it's far more likely that military action is going to take place before the vote ever takes place.
Okay. Well,
because
how is that going to play out?
Well, if something else happens between now and next Wednesday or Thursday, and the administration said we had to act.
What happens if he loses the vote and he still acts? What happens then?
That's big trouble.
Okay.
That is big trouble.
What has your glass half full and what has your glass half empty this week? Let's go around the table. We'll start with Michelle.
All right, well, my glass is half full because our kids went back to school. But my glass is half empty because now our kids are a year older and they went back to school.
Okay, Michael Holt.
Oh, I was half full because, you know, the Green Bay Packers had 2 black quarterbacks on the roster within the last month. It's half empty because finding a black quarterback is about as easy as finding a black cheerleader in Green Bay, and both of these quarterbacks are garbage.
Okay, Brian Fraley.
Garbage.
Wow.
Nice. Glass is half empty because 2 good Republicans, Scott Souter and Mark Honadell, have left the state assembly. But the glass is half empty because the assembly Republicans may have their first Latina member. Stay tuned.
My glass is half full because the unemployment rate dropped to 7.3% last Friday. It's half empty because the only reason it went down is so many more Americans have stopped looking for work. In fact, the labor participation rate is now at the lowest point in 35 years. You know what that means? You'd have to go back to August 1978 when Jimmy Carter was the president to get numbers that low. Next on Sunday Insight, will you have sticker shock when Obamacare kicks in? Is there health insurance sticker shock in your future? A report from the state insurance commissioner last week says that insurance rates in the new Obamacare exchanges will cost an average of 50% more, in some cases a lot more. For example, the report said an insurance plan for a 21-year-old in Madison could cost 125% more. A 40-year-old in Madison could see a 73% increase. Now, critics were quick to point out that the study was misleading, they said, because it didn't take into account Obamacare's subsidies that could be used to pay for those big increases. So do they have a point there, Brian Fraley?
They have a little bit of a point in terms of the subsidies, but let's be clear here. And you can figure out how minuscule your subsidy is going to be. Go to rightwisconsin.com. We have the calculator there from the Kaiser Family Foundation. It's not numbers we cooked up. But the sticker shock for Obamacare has just begun. You know, gotta love the left. For weeks, they were complaining that the Walker administration was not coming out with what the premiums were going to be for the plans that are being offered. So what the Office of Commissioner of Insurance does, by the information that they had, they calculated what the rates could be, notwithstanding the subsidies. But look, your rates could go up as much as 124% in certain areas. And then the left goes crazy and says, well, that's not fair. This is only the tip of the iceberg, by the way. It is not just cost, it is access. When we find out that there is only 1 or 2 networks in certain regions of the state where you can go and you can't go to your doctor, and there's only certain facilities that you can go, that is really when it hits the fan.
There's another point, you know, that when they're saying, oh, you're not taking into account the fact that there are going to be these subsidies. Well, who pays for the subsidies? You know, the cost of health care is about to rise, whether it comes out of individuals' pockets or out of the taxpayers' pockets. You know that the Affordable Care Act is not looking like it's going to be that affordable.
You know, this is all speculation. You know, the reality is, right now, nearly 30% of American people don't have any insurance. You know, I'm caught in that gray area. I haven't had insurance in 5 years, and I'm a member of the Zipper Club, which means I've had those heart problems. You know, the last time I checked and tried to go to the state to get insurance for my wife and myself, they wanted $2,861 a month, and this was 4 years ago. So for all of those who are talking about the premiums going up, if you don't have any premiums,
are you going to be in the exchanges?
I don't know right now. Fortunately, I'm a veteran, so I
okay.
gave up some blood so I can go to the VA.
Because I'm guessing that if you and your wife are in these exchanges, you're going to be surprised how little those subsidies are.
I completely agree. I think the one thing that when the president said competition and choice are going to push down the cost of these individual plans, there is no competition really when it comes to health insurance in the future. We were able to kind of pick and choose what we wanted to be covered in our health insurance plans that we're paying for now. Now, if you're a 70-year-old woman, you still have to pay for maternity coverage. We also have to split more evenly what people pay for that young person who doesn't use any health insurance versus the person who's 60 who uses far more health insurance. And so someone's going to be paying for all of those costs.
Well, but that was also why this report should have been so interesting, because the key to the success of Obamacare will be getting young people to sign up. They have to count on them being bad at math, because they are really going to be hammered by the cost of this insurance. So when you see this report suggesting you're looking at massive sticker shock for a 21-year-old in Madison, that identifies exactly where Obamacare is going to run into trouble.
But that 21-year-old, though, can stay under Obamacare, can stay on his parents' policy.
Theory. But you will have to go get your health care wherever your parents live.
Well, now, see, you also said something, Michael, which was important, when you said all of this is speculation. We don't know. And the amazing thing is we are less than a month away from rolling out these exchanges, and you're absolutely right. There is a tremendous amount of uncertainty. People do not know what the impact's going to be. They do not know how it's going to play out, and that ought to have people pretty nervous, because you're dealing with one of the most important parts of our lives in the economy, and the uncertainty factor can't be overstated.
And I sent out letters when this first was approved, when the Supreme Court approved this and called it a tax, or whatever you want to call it. And I sent letters to several congressmen, and I laid out my scenario. And I said, where would I be under Obamacare? And none of them could answer the question.
Wow. You may not want to hear it, but we're going to tell you anyway. Let's hand out some unsolicited advice. Michelle, you're first.
Well, Madison Mayor Soglin, he's going to be asking the city employees to be giving a little bit more back as far as their paychecks, because they can't balance their own budget. So my advice to you is to purchase some earplugs, because you are going to be hearing shame, shame, shame in your direction.
Michael Holt.
Well, this is to the president. You better make a strong case this Tuesday when you make your speech on Syria, because it speaks volumes even when the Congressional Black Caucus turns their back on you.
Brian.
In the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Steve Martin tells John Candy, look, when you tell a story, have a point. It makes it much more interesting to the listener. So to President Obama, when you want to drop some bombs, have an objective. It makes it much more understandable for the American public.
Well, my unsolicited advice is to Mayor Tom Barrett. Mayor, if you really want people to voluntarily want to live in your city, you want to encourage rather than discourage schools like St. Marcus Lutheran School. These are the high-performing schools that might actually attract people into the city. Instead, you and MPS are standing in the schoolhouse door, preventing them from expanding by letting them buy an empty, dilapidated, old public school. Get out of the way. Next on Sunday Insight, the NFL season is here, and the Packers face a big test right at the start. Here we go again. The last time the Green Bay Packers faced the 49ers, the outcome was, well, ugly. But it's a new season. The Packers start their run to the Super Bowl later today. The offensive line is banged up. There are questions about the running game, and the backup quarterback picture is blurry, but Aaron Rodgers is still behind center. So what do you think? How many games will the Packers win this year, Michael Holt? Gotta put
I've been right every year for the last 5 years, right?
I know, yeah.
I'm predicting it's going to be 9-7. There are just so many variables. I mean, we don't know about the defense. We don't know about the offense. You know, we got people missing and, you know, safety missing. We don't know about cornerback. We don't know if the running game's going to be working. We don't have the same receivers and the power of the receivers that we had last year. A lot will depend on today's game. I think today's game will determine the season. If they win today, they're going to go 10-6. Otherwise, they're 9-7.
Okay, Brian Fraley.
That's high stakes. Well, yeah, I'm saying 10-6. Week one, we're not going to go through each of the weeks. All right, look.
Michelle wanted to, but I just stick to the numbers.
I take 10-6 because then that gives me close enough bragging rights if it's 9-7 or 11-5. A lot of question marks. Will the young kids step up? Will Johnny Jolly and the revamped defense, be a little bit stronger? We'll find out. I don't know if all the chits are on this game, so to speak, this week, but we'll know within the first 3 weeks whether this team is going to go deep into the playoffs or barely make it.
Okay, Michelle.
Well, I'm a believer, so I think it's 11-5. But you know what I learned? I learned that 50 of the 53 players on the Packers team have only played for the Green Bay Packers. And I think that says...
You get extra points for that?
A lot. I think that says a lot about the team. And actually, I think they're going to work really well together this year.
Okay, I mean, so you think they're going to go to the playoffs, obviously. 11-5 should be enough to go to the playoffs. How far do they go into the playoffs? How deep do they go in?
I think they have to prove that yet.
See, I can't get over the sense that they were exposed last year for being a little bit soft. And unfortunately, the way the preseason has evolved, it doesn't tell you anything. I mean, we didn't see anything at all. So frankly, this is one of the toughest years to make this prediction because Aaron Rodgers has taken how many snaps? 45 snaps. We have no idea, no clue. So I'm really going out on a limb and saying that I think they're going to go 12-4, and I think they're going to go a little bit deeper into the playoffs than they did before because I do think the running game is going to be stronger. And I guess I disagree. I don't think that the first game necessarily always sets the tone. In fact, we've had a lot of teams in the NFL that have started off relatively weak and then make adjustments. That's going to be the key. Obviously, and I know these are all cliches, but you got to avoid injuries. You got to look. I mean, I don't care who the backup quarterback is. Aaron Rodgers goes down, and that season is done, and it's all going to be on his shoulders.
And remember, last year after 5 games, they were only 2-3.
Exactly.
And we thought they were tanking.
Well, exactly.
But they were soft last year.
Yeah, well, they were a little bit soft. Is what they said this week the same thing as what you heard? Let's go around the table. Michelle Litchens.
Well, I think we all heard Milwaukee elected officials screaming about getting rid of residency requirements and what that's going to do to the city of Milwaukee. But this week, I heard a wonderful commercial on the radio from MPS saying they don't have any residency requirements and they're looking for the best and brightest teachers to teach our kids.
Ironic. Michael Holt.
State Senator Tim Cullen said he's going to retire because he's tired of all this partisan infighting up in Madison. What I actually heard was the old African adage that when 2 elephants fight, only the ground gets hurt, and we're the grass. Okay, Brian Fraley.
President Obama said, "That's not my red line. I didn't draw that red line in Syria." And what everyone heard was, "I drew that red line in Syria." Everyone heard it, no matter how much he tries to rewrite history. He said it.
Yeah, I'm along the same line. What the president said, I didn't draw that red line. He also said, my credibility is not at stake. I didn't do any of this. What I heard was a president who says that everybody else in the world is to blame but him. Next on Sunday Insight, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. But first, here's your morning news update. It's time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. Michelle Litchens, you're first.
Well, my winner is St. Marcus School in Milwaukee. St. Marcus is an incredible school. They teach discipline and respect. Most parents can only dream of their children learning, and they simply want to purchase a vacant school from MPS so they can educate the children on their waiting list. So MPS, prove you want Milwaukee children to learn and sell them Malcolm X School. My losers are the potential workers of a casino in Kenosha. Contracts were signed which would allow union bosses to walk up and intimidate every employee to sign a petition to be in a union. Full card check, no secret ballot. I can think of some better jobs we want in Wisconsin.
Michael Holt.
Okay, I know it's going to be controversial, but we'd be winners if the Milwaukee County Board supports David Bowen's Affordable Employment Act. People can say what they want, but it's already in Milwaukee, Madison, and 120 municipalities, and it would break the cycle of poverty. My losers, 20 murders in August. 20 murders, and 99% of them were minorities. Seems like some of the words of David Clark are coming back to haunt us now about self-defense.
Brian Fraley.
Hey, my winner this week is Green Bay area Congressman Reed Ribble. I had a chance to interview him this week for WriteWisconsin.com and found Ribble to be well-informed, thoughtful, and refreshingly candid. Check it out. My loser, could it be anyone other than our incredibly shrinking president? From the disastrous Obamacare to the Syria debacle, he just keeps looking worse and worse.
Well, my losers, young people who are about to see these massive health insurance rate increases under Obamacare, just think of it as the bill for all that hope and change finally coming due. My winners, football fans, of course. The long wait is over. Finally, the NFL season's underway. The Packers are back. Thanks for joining us. Join me for my radio show Monday morning on News Radio 620 WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. Have a great weekend.